All right, welcome to Lights Camera Barstool. Really quick recap for you of Game of Thrones, rather House of the Dragon finale of season 2, which just aired. Very, I mean, I'm not even going to say divisive, just pretty much like a universally shit on finale. I would say it's very tough to find many positive words about how they ended this season. That's not to say like the quality of this episode was bad. It's just like its place in the finale spot of a season that its impact on the season of the whole and how the season on the whole ended. But people are not happy. It's understandable. We'll talk a little bit about it. I'll just say off the bat, I think that's pretty much where I fall, is how I just described it, where I'm like, yeah, the aspects of this episode are fine. This was a bad finale in its spot. I think that if you look at the ending of the last episode, that should have been the finale. If you're really dying for like that big finale moment, it should have been last episode, and this episode should have been the last episode, because it was just a real bummer, to put it lightly.
Yeah, I said it last night. Like it is hitting the correct story beats. It's just nothing is as grand or as well done as it was in Game of Thrones. And like I've said, it's hard to, hold this up against Game of Thrones, but that's just the reality of the situation. Like it's a spinoff of Game of Thrones. It's going to be compared nonstop. And I think it should be compared to Game of Thrones. And it's just like everything is just at a lower level. And when you have these like just kind of muted finales, muted penultimates, like it's a lot to ask. Like it's a lot to ask for us to be invested and wait 2 more years to get to see the payoff on what was essentially a setup season after season 1, which was also kind of a setup season. So I get it. Like the best moments in Game of Thrones for the most part took place in like conversations and dialogue. And that's a lot of like, I see people complaining there wasn't enough dragons. I don't think that should be the complaint. I think it's just like, they're not hitting the big moments. They really just aren't, even in the dialogue, even in like the small moments, like it's just not there. And so we're just left on kind of like it's like when you're edging and it's just like, you're not really going at it hard and just like kind of your dick goes soft in your hand.
That's just classically like when you're edging, the thing everyone does. I think we can get to kind of like the nitty gritty of the episode itself first, and then just kind of like how it the quality of the full season was too. We kind of get a little bit of Jason Lannister starting this out in Essos with him and the LGBTQ pirate crew, which is hilarious, by the way. Like the way that they make the Tyroshi pirates look is like the nightmare scenario for so many people in this country. It's like, here's a bunch of blue-haired like intersex people that are coming to kill you, and oh, by the way, they're cucks and they want you to fuck their wives. Like it's like a fucking nightmare scenario for certain people. But you get him out in Essos trying to recruit these pirates. You get introduced to this new pirate captain. That's all good and grand. That has no place, I think, really in this finale sort of season.
You know what I mean? And they went back to it like 4 times.
Exactly, like 5 different sequences of Jason Lannister just getting like shit on and fighting in their mud wrestling pit.
Yeah, that was I wasn't expecting that at all. I wasn't expecting to really dive into that hard. Like that was half the episode.
Mm-hmm. Like literally so much time spent in Essos. Crazy. You have Corlys having like his little Mr. Deeds scenario going on with his bastard child, where he's like, yeah, I want you to be my new heir now that all my other heirs are dead. And he's like, I hate your guts. Not Alan of Hall. I forget this guy's name, but he just hates his fucking guts. That stuff has also been like not really, I would say, fleshed out this season, or maybe too fleshed out, because like that fucking boat, that's the most broken boat a boat has ever been broken in the history of broken boats. They spent a full season repairing this fucking boat, and it's only just ready to go. And I'm so sick of the boat and everything attached to it, which includes fucking Corlys and his bastard sons.
Yeah, I don't really know what they're going for here. This is back to like the Thrones thing. Like, I don't mind going to side characters nonstop or smaller players on the board. But the thing about the Thrones was when you went to a smaller player on the board, it was wildly interesting. Like, you go to Stannis Baratheon and you're like, what the fuck is going on with this guy? Like, you are very intrigued by that storyline. Here, it's like, yeah, the Essos stuff, like, I guess. And I love pirates, so I should have loved that. I was just like, here this whole season, every time this is popped on screen, I have tuned out. I just can't get into it.
I cannot leave faster. We get Ulf being maybe like one of the
Yeah.
weirdest whole. He went from like he's basically like, and I was saying this on we did like a recap yesterday. I was like, we were all rooting for you, Ulf, and now we all hate your fucking guts within the scope of an episode. Has anyone ever been dumber than Ulf? Going from like, wow, my life sucks. All I do is like beg for drinks from people to just like taking a dump on the king, the queen, and the prince of fucking Westeros.
Yeah, dude is on a heater. He's just like, he's like, fuck it. I'm here. I made it this far. Might as well just, keep playing the hand that I'm dealt. I don't know.
This guy's a fucking idiot. You get Cole being a full-on emo bitch boy, just sitting there being like, "Oh, I wish I was dead. I hate eating pussy so much. Oh, it's the worst." And like his brother, what he couldn't, Allison's brother's just like, "I don't even want to kill you. You're so pathetic."
Dude, he's just a bitch. Like that's the only word for it. Like he really is. Just sitting in the woods crying. Like he really is having his little emo like 2007 goth music video moment. This whole, and Allison too, by the way. Allison is just being so moody, but he's just 10 times worse. They deserve each other. They really do. And he does by the way, did you catch I don't know if it was intentional. It's probably in the book. It's the exact line from Hail Caesar that Alden Ehrenreich couldn't say.
What did it twir?
Yeah.
The weird thing about Cole is that Cole, to me, throughout, especially this season, has been such a good, hateable character, like a Janice Soprano or something like that, I guess, where I'm like, I like you because you're so hateable. And I think these last few episodes, they flipped him from that to this emo little arc, and now I don't like him anymore. Now I just straight don't like him. I don't like him as part of the narrative of the story, which I dislike that for this for the series, basically.
Yeah, Janice Soprano, that's a good comparison. But like you said, just so much even more hateable, which is a strength. Like hateable characters are what this show has always been built on. Like I'm not rooting for people; I'm just rooting against.
Exactly. We get I think the big banner more sequence was, and this was definitely cheap. Damon out in Harrenhal, touching the Weirwood, seeing the vision of the entire future, getting your White Walker in, getting your Danny in, and then him going back and bending the knee. The bending the knee sequence, good.
Yeah.
Other shit was cheap.
We cannot keep doing this Prince Who is Promised prophecy showing Dan. Like what the fuck was that showing Danny?
She wasn't the prince that was promised.
How did
it was fucking Jon Snow?
How do they do this Prince that was promised thing and he has a vision of Danny? I don't even know where to start with that one. I like that. Just like the ending of Thrones was like, oh yeah, no, it's not Danny. Like it is very explicitly not her.
Mm-hmm. They could not have made it clear.
I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe these visions were being fed to him by someone else. I don't know what the fuck that whole vision thing was. I don't.
And then we ended out with the big montage sequence after you get this big conversation between Allison and Rhaenyra, where they talk about like, oh, actually, psych, I do want to have a peace talk. And in fact, you can come and behead my son as long as we can the rest of us walk away like alive. Which, by the way, the whole line of Rhaenyra being like, yeah, well, we'll do it this way, like a son for a son. It's like, brother, your husband commissioned a guy to behead this woman's grandson. She was caught walking away with her grandson's head in a sack. And Allison's still like, yeah, son for son, sounds good. It's like, brother, you guys are even. You are even-footed right now.
Yeah. Allison she's just very clearly over. Like, she's done with all of it. Like, she just wants to go live in the woods. And
she's a bad mom. She's a really fucking bad mom.
She's up there. Fucking, you think Cersei Lannister would let this shit fly?
Think about it, but even Cersei Lannister, like Tommen was a good guy. Myrcella was a pretty good woman from what we knew. Like, but like every single kid she had, that Allison had, Aegon, monster. Aemond, monster. Fucking, what's her name is basically like on drugs the entire series. Helena is just like tripping balls the entirety of the series. Like, she's a shit mom and a bad grandma.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Terrible mother.
Very bad mom, and that's something we can talk about more with, like, as far as like the impact of the entire series. But we end on this big montage of like, hey, here's this thing happening, here's this thing happening, here's the Starks coming down from Winterfell with their army of the retirement home. Here's everyone getting mustered in Harrenhal. Here's all these troops coming over with Darren Targaryen, Alicent's other son, with all the Hightower troops. Here's the Lannister troops. Here's the Navy. Like everything. Hey, look, everything's finally coming together. But that moment is so soured by the fact that we have essentially left off in that same point, like, oh, shit's about to pop off in the ending of the first season. And shit didn't really pop off this season, with the exception of one big fight sequence. And that was it. Like one, which is essentially a skirmish, more or less.
Yeah, and now they're like, I'm sure you saw like some of the after the episode stuff talking about Ryan Condal talking about wanting to do 5 seasons. Where are we?
We're hobbiting this.
Yes, that is. I saw that comparison last night on Twitter too, where it's starting to feel like The Hobbit, where they're very much stretching this shit out, and it's hurting the product quite a bit. And there's stuff that they're just glossing over that would be interesting to see. Like you were just talking about everything we see at the end of the episode, the troops coming down. Like I would have liked to see, the decision making process behind that with the Starks. I would have liked to have seen how Aemond got out of the city, or not Aemond, Aegon got out of the city. Aegon, what was his new nickname?
I don't remember.
Something stupid. How he got, out of the city. There's stuff that I would have liked to have seen, and the stuff that they showed me, I just did not care for.
Mm-hmm. There's stuff the book people talk about too, like Nettles and all these other characters that they just don't talk about and absorb into other people's stories that seem way cooler than just going through these circular plot lines over and over and over again throughout the entirety of the season, which has been a lot of a bummer, a big time bummer to me.
Do you think too much of a focus has been made on like creating 2 main characters and 2 main houses, where I guess you have that in the original Throne series, but it felt even more spread out, far more spread out, where there's so many more houses at play and episodes where you don't even see a Stark or a Lannister, stuff like that. You think that benefited Thrones to a point where it gave more time to, or at least more of an initiative from the writers to really develop everyone else?
I think in those other Game of Thrones seasons, especially like 1 through like I think it was like 6 or 7 or something. Like there's a lot of like ebbs and flows, like arcs. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where it's like, hey, and like they never really. And people always bitch about like the battles. Like, oh, battles! Oh, we need big battles! Oh, we need this! Like that didn't really happen a lot in Game of Thrones. Like you'd have a lot of like cut away, cut back, and the battle's over. Happen all the time, and that was fine. It wasn't a huge deal because like the implication of it is things were there, and like there was like stakes to it. There was this, there was that. None of that shit really happens in here, and that's whatever. But like you would have a lot of these moments in Game of Thrones where it's like, hey, we're leading toward this big thing, and hey, here this person's plan just got foiled, and now like that's your climax at the end of a season. And now you go into this next scene. How are they going to come back from this? You have like Dany coming to Westeros with a big army on the what do you call it, on the ships. Bam, cool, really sick. Like all those moments would happen, and like they've made you super pumped up for the next one. And like it was very rarely like, wow, we're right back where we started. With that, not a lot of shit happening. It felt like maybe 2 weeks of real time elapsed throughout the entirety of this entire season, which is crazy.
Like, I mean, Daemon went on a little weekend vacation. Rhaenyra decided to let some poor people try to ride dragons, and that's kind of where we're at. A baby got killed. Aegon fell off his horse, or his dragon.
His dragon,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And I have seen the defenses of this finale and this season have been obviously the writer's strike, huge issue. I think they initially intended to go to 10, and then 2 episodes got cut. I don't know how that affected everything though. They could have just taken the 10 episodes and compressed it down into 8 episodes, which honestly probably smart, because I can't imagine trying to drag what they had out into 10 episodes. But if it did cut off like 2 good episodes, I could see that would be a problem, and that's a valid defense. But outside of that, like, I don't really see the defense there. The budget is there for the show to be as good as it needs to be. I don't think there's really any excuses.
I was saying too, like the fact that like we even start out in this last episode where it's like, yeah, Aemon burned this whole town down, and didn't show it at all. It's like, come on, bro, like Batgirl didn't die for this. Like you could show that for a little bit. Yeah. We didn't have like all these projects they murdered in the womb for them to not show stuff like this on CGI scale.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
It's crazy. So I think we can talk more about just the general impact of this season. And I think there's stuff about it that's good and there's stuff about it that's bad, obviously. I think for me, the good comes in the Battle of Rook's Rest was sick. That's like one of the cooler battle sequences you'll see, especially just like seeing dragons fight in general. Always awesome. The dragon pit scene with the bastards, like figuring out how to ride. Cool scene. Talked about like the oneer that they did with that. Looked really cool. Blood and Cheese in general, I thought was a very good opening. Like that's like a oh shit opening moment, and that's very cool. Tully, the little Tully kid shitting all over Damon, I thought was a cool scene. Last
Yeah.
episode,
Oh yeah. It's very funny.
very very funny stuff. Eric versus Eric, and like the ending of the last episode with like Eamon having to turn around because all the dragons are like that's a cool banner like sort of end of season episode. But I think for the bad for the season, for me anyway, has been that Harrenhal is a chore, an absolute chore of just total repetition. And after seeing Damon in the first season being like, hey, here's this cool, awesome badass, and like, let's just stick him in a repeating illusionary nightmare of that's like not particularly exciting versus just kind of like this is odd. You know what I mean? Like that to me was a just very, very boring. Alice Rib is you fucking die. Go away forever. I never want to see this woman again. Ever. And she's like so important apparently to all the book people and all that. I'm like, I never want to see this lady's face again for the rest of the series.
Oh yeah, no, terrible to look at. They're just kidding.
So sick of her. I feel like Rhaenyra in general has been idling this entire season. Like we don't really have like development at all. She's basically in the same exact like personality point she was in the beginning of this, where she's like, yeah, like I don't want to kill people, but I know I have to kill people. It's like, all right, yeah, we fucking get it. Like we understand like that's your kind of issue here. And I think that the part of that also like bleeds into a big problem that they have between Rhaenyra and Alicent, where to me, and at least to like for what every book person has always said is like this sort of like battle between Rhaenyra and Alicent is supposed to be like you're not supposed to particularly like either side. Like you're supposed to kind of just be like more like almost like a neutral observing. Like both these people suck. They're bad. They're evil people. They do bad shit in their own way. But like this series tilts you so heavily towards Rhaenyra and towards hating Alicent. And I think that makes it so much easier to just make you all team black, which is something that I feel like they did a good job in Game of Thrones of like not, they give you very few characters that it's like super easy to root for. And like, you know what I mean? Like there's like a lot of like players within it, like Stannis or whatever, where it's like, hey, he's in the right, but he's also like a piece of shit and you should hate him. Hey, here's like the Lannisters, like you're rooting for Tyrion, you're rooting for Jaime to a degree, but he's gray and you hate fucking Cersei, you hate this. Like they make shit more difficult. But like in this, you're just so clearly on the side of Rhaenyra and you fucking hate Alicent. And I feel like you're supposed to be more empathetic towards her because they give you these scenes where they're like, yeah, look, she's struggling. She wants to go and like run away and die and she doesn't want her kids to die and all this shit. It's like, but I don't care. I fucking hate her guts.
Yeah. And I hate her kids' guts.
I hate everyone. I hate every green.
Exactly. I mean, the only one I really fuck with is Aemon, but he's still a dickhead. Like he's a monster.
Exactly.
I only fuck with him because he's like kind of just cool. Like he's hateable. He's cool. Makes for a good villain. Like that's why I like him. But like I'm not rooting for him technically.
And like even Rhaenyra, like I feel like the points where they try to make her seem like they give her like almost make her seem more evil, I guess. Like yeah, look at her in the dragon pit sending all these bastards off to die. But then the next scene, she's like, I couldn't dare let a citizen die in my name. I couldn't let all these people. It's like, but you are. You're supposed to be kind of a shithead. In a way, you know what I mean? They're supposed to be letting small folk die for you to get into this throne. And I feel like they struggle with that. And I feel like this whole vision thing they give with Daemon also undermines that, where they're like, okay, yeah, but now that Daemon has seen this, you as a viewer also know that like Rhaenyra has to sit the Iron Throne at some point in order for the world to be saved. So now you're even more empathetically, like you're more emphatically like on the side of the blacks versus the greens. And it's just, I feel like they've done such a bad job of like making this a two-sided, like a side where, or more of a battle between two sides that you feel empathetic towards both sides, and more just like I am all team black and I just fucking hate team green.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I can't really argue any of that. I mean, I don't. I'm interested to see what this 2-year layover does to this show. Because like, what do people look back on and talk about with this series for the next year? What do they theorize? There's nothing there to keep the hype train going. I feel like I think it'll just be a thing where 2 months before we'll get our first look, and that'll be like, oh yeah, House of the Dragon's coming back. Time to get excited. I don't know. Like what is on the horizon for? I mean, this fucking battle's got to happen. She's got to go to King's Landing. Is she going to take this man's head?
So
She can't because he's gone.
from what I know, just from like some, again, like book crap that's been shown to me, or like rather, I say like against my will, but like if I see it in my TikTok feed or whatever, like a story about a battle that happens later in House of the Dragon, I'm like, oh, I just gotta watch it. I gotta read it. I gotta look at this. Like there's a lot of cool shit coming up. It's just this season has felt so like literally nothing happened except for Rook's Arrest. Like nothing really of particular import. Like Blood and Cheese right in the beginning, and then Rook's Arrest, and then everything else around it has felt like an entire season of filler around those two moments.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And it is a lot of filler. From what I understand, right, it's about 30 pages from the book is all that was covered here.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of, and that's sucks for the writers, I guess, that they have to fill in those gaps on their own. And it was nice for when Game of Thrones was going, especially when it was really cooking. They were just coming straight from the book. They had so much to work with, where here they don't have as much. But like, they don't do it this way. If you're gonna have to fill in these gaps and you don't feel like you can do it to the strength of George R. R. Martin. I mean, also they're announcing about 100 different Game of Thrones series and spinoffs.
Yeah, dunking in the egg next year.
Yeah, they're going all in. I don't know.
Tough to blame him for that. Was it A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which should be, I think, next year, 2025. That cast is Peter Claffey, don't know him. He's a rugby player. Dexter Soul Ansel, don't know him either. He's a kid. Finn Bennett, who I believe is in True Detective Night Country. I think he was the male detective's son, like the main, I guess, male lead in that.
Who can forget?
Bertie Carvel. I don't know. Sam Spruill is the only guy named Maker Targaryen. But yeah, those other series I think almost have a higher chance of success only because they like if it's supposed to be just like a mini series, or at least of the first season, it's like you have a more definitive. You don't have to stretch shit out, so to speak. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you can just like make this a condensed story, I feel like they're in such better shape. I mean, they're doing something like this, like, hey, let's make 30 pages of actual real like source material into an 8-episode arc, and like still it felt like it's weirdly this whole season kind of felt short and long at the same time. I'm like 8 episodes after waiting 2 years is crazy. Strike or not, in my brain, I'm just like, that's so long to wait. And then have those 8 episodes feel like nothing happened. It pisses me off as a viewer.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I guess we have Duncan in the egg. Duncan in the egg. What else
Night
is on
of the Seven Kingdoms?
Night of the Seven Kingdoms next year as well. And they have like 8 other things. How many other things do they actually have going right now? Do you know?
Let's see.
You got one of those computer machines in front of you. I'm starting to wonder if they're making a huge mistake here. Is what I'm getting at. Putting all their eggs into the Game of Thrones basket. Because we have watched Disney Plus put all their eggs into an IP basket and it blow up right in their fucking faces. And that was with like the most popular franchise of all time at the peak of its powers. And then people were like, this is just way too fucking much. Do not care. You see what I'm saying? Like it blew up with the MCU is what I'm saying. Like you do all these, like you think that people really want this shit, but then you give them 70 hours a year of that stuff and it all suffers as a result.
The one plus I would say that Game of Thrones has in maybe like separately from like the MCU, like MCU had like its big, massive, highly successful, amazing climax, right? Like in Endgame and Infinity War combination. Like Game of Thrones kind of had like a spindly, watery jizz as a finish. You know what I mean? Like everyone was kind of like, we don't feel satisfied by this ending, so we want more. So that kind of I think works in its favor, and that's after a decade-long series. So people still want this. People are still going to. I mean, people are going to come and watch season 3 of House of the Dragon. They're going to be pumped up for it and all that shit in 2 years' time. But I do think that they have an opportunity to go and like do more of these things because there's these other works that obviously George R. R. Martin made. But I don't know. I'm with you in that. Like, I would like them to have more secure footing in their flag bearing franchise in House of the Dragon before they start doing all these spin-off things. Especially if like just a lot of the shit in here just kind of felt I don't know. Cheap is maybe the right word. Is not well thought out, maybe because this showrunner, I don't
Yeah.
think, because they switched showrunners between this season and the new season.
Yeah.
This guy's kind of a bozo.
Yeah, I think that's the right word for it. Is like, it's not that they're not putting the correct resources into it. It's, are they putting the correct amount of care into it, or is this just something they need to pump out to get their subscription numbers up? Which,
Like, I think even a good example of that is the fact that like the showrunner, right? Like, and he had that very famous clip that went viral, or very famous, whatever. He had a clip that went viral of him being like, "Yeah, this Valyrian steel armor that Aegon wears, it feels like something Aegon the Conqueror would have worn in his old time in Old Valyria." Aegon the Conqueror had never been to Old Valyria in the entire history of Game of Thrones. Like the fact that like so little care was put into even fact checking the showrunner saying some shit like that shows me that, like, to a degree, they really aren't putting enough time to, like, it's one thing for him to fuck up and just like forget something silly like that, whatever. It's not like a massive deal. You don't need to be a lore meister in order to be a showrunner. But like the fact that like something that makes it through to the end is kind of crazy.
yeah, no, that's exactly right.
So I think for the future seasons, like I'm obviously going to be there, super excited. It won't be affected by strikes, which is going to be great this next season. So I think we could be more excited for season 3. It's just this one in general has been, I would say, mostly a bummer, but like not for the fault of, I would say, most of the people involved. Like at the, like anywhere below a certain, like it's all very constant. Like I would put the blame for the things wrong that's very high up at the top, like storyboarders, showrunner, like directors. I think all the episodes are like directed fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No, I agree. It's well made at the same time. Not like it's not thought out well, but it's well made. Like
yeah,
it's, the acting is especially incredible. I think across the board, rivals Game of Thrones. I think the acting is very, very good, and they do a lot of cool stuff visually. The direction's great. CGI looks as good. As good as it ever has. But yeah, it's just the story. The most important part.
it's all top level stuff. Like, you know what I mean? It's like people that were like at the, like, it's almost like the foundation's really fucked up of like a very nice looking house, a very well put together house. You know what I mean? House of the Dragon. But like they, like you're saying, like all the acting, great. What's her name? Emma Darcy's amazing. Olivia Cook's been really good. Like all these even like smaller actors, like the actress that plays Helena has been amazing. The one that played Rhaenys, I think her name is Eve Best, was awesome. All these other like little sequences between different actors, like very cool. Whatever fight sequences we did get, they look great. They had that guy that did Battle of the Bastards do Rook's Rest, which looked crazy. It's just a lot of the top level stuff. The guys running the show and the guys being like, this is how this is going to come together as a full season on a broad scope, like a metascope. Like they are the ones that I think are more to blame for anything else. Like all the individual execution of individual episodes was good. Very few faults I would find in those, but just top level.
Yeah.
Which is similar to season 8 of Thrones, I would say too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Season 8, the wheels came off like top down, but like still pretty good across the board. Like everything looked great, acted great. Just like, what the fuck? Exactly. What's going on with the story right now, fellas? You watch anything else this weekend?
I watched The Instigators.
That's out.
Saw a screening of that. Instigators, I liked. Trying to think of what else.
How was my boy Harlow?
Harlow?
Yeah,
He was good. I think he's like a fine, like, he's never been like an actor than anything I've seen in like White Man Can't Jump, whatever else. He's never been like, oh shit, Jack Harlow's really good here. He's just like, yeah, he's playing the right character here.
Yeah, fair.
He's solid. Trying to think of what else. I watched something that I hadn't seen in a really long time. This what was it? I've been rewatching Alien movies because I'm going to Romulus next week, or
I did a rewatch.
Days, wait.
Oh, you get to see it early? You fucker.
Yeah.
You got you fucker.
You jelly about Alien Romulus?
That's like top 5 on the year for me. Top 10 on the year.
Oh, I'm just gonna tell you it sucks regardless if it's good or not.
I'm seeing it opening night. I'll be in New York for that.
Oh, I watched this Michael Keaton directed movie that they've been pushing very heavily on Max. Knox Goes Away.
Yeah.
I
refuse to click it. I keep seeing
it's a chore, man. It was a serious chore. It's like a really cool concept. Like he's like a hitman that's like he has like a very advanced case of like dementia, like that he gets diagnosed and he has like kind of like 2 weeks to put his shit together. but like, and like there's the idea is very cool. It is so fucking boring and so long, and it's a pain. And Keaton's good in it. I don't think maybe he needed a better editor or something, but it was
Isn't Pacino in that thing too?
Pacino, isn't it? Yeah, Pacino, Marsden,
Yeah, so when you
couple
get a
other
cast
people.
like that and no one's fucking talking about it,
Yeah,
that's a sign.
but they were promoting it like crazy. Like I saw it on my banner like every time I would open the Max app, and I was like, all right, fine, fuck it, I'll check it out. And I was just like, oh, this is. Ugh. I watched a Dirty Pop, the thing about the guy that founded NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys,
No, I
which
didn't
was
know. I
kind
haven't
of
heard.
interesting.
That was found. Those two groups are founded by the same person.
Yeah, Lou Pearlman, I think was his name. He founded both. He's like, I think his quote was like, you know how when Coke was founded, Pepsi was founded to compete with them. Why don't I just found both? Kind of a baller
gangster.
quote.
That's
And then it turns out he was
gangster.
running like 15 Ponzi schemes or something with like all of the money he was making. So it just, and he went to jail.
This guy who's collecting groups of young boys to put on stage and sing together. He's not a good person.
They heavily imply that very, very early on. They're like, and they have like basically every. It's weird because like they have like all like this because he also founded like O Town and like a couple other male pop groups too. He also founded the group that Britney Spears came from. Which I forgot the name of it. It's like the something.
I didn't know she was. I didn't know she was never not solo.
Neither
Or
did
never
I
solo.
until I saw it. He founded let's see, what was it? I know he did like a couple groups, and all of them are like very successful. He also like ran his money originally came from running a blimp company that he like co-founded with like an ex-Luftwaffe pilot from the Nazi regime.
That's not a real fucking job. Okay, I think there's like 16 blimps left in the world right now. Like, there's no way he was running a blimp company.
This is like in the 80s. He was like obsessed with blimps. And he's like, I'm going to make a blimp company.
This is back on the later days of the blimps prime. They don't do blimps like they used to.
Trying to remember what the rest of them he did. Backstreet Boys. Because he liked New Kids on the Block, and he's like, I just want to do that. So he founds Backstreet Boys in Orlando. Then he founds NSYNC. Then he makes LFO, Take Five, and those other ones I was talking about. Whatever the O Town and the Britney Spears one. But that one is cool. I watched a couple of ones on Prime Video too. What about you?
Speaking of Prime Video, I watched the new Batman animated series.
I did too. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Slow first episode, which I didn't love. And then after that, kind of just picked straight up, and it's good. It's very good. I wouldn't say the animation is as good as it was in the 90s. There's just something about that hand-drawn, like, just very fluid animation that just, I don't think can be replicated anymore due to workers' rights. And the just amount of money people are willing to put into these things. But it looks good. It took a second to get used to the new Batman voice, but once I did, I was in. I like it a lot. I love those like golden age characterizations of superheroes, like where they're like not overpowered too much. And so like there's a little bit of a struggle with the fucking henchmen, or like there's not just a million gadgets to get like these heroes out of like every single situation. I like that. Like there's a little bit more impact to everything.
The old mid-Atlantic accent still makes me laugh too. Like all the bad guys are like, Batman,
it's a big it's the freaking bats.
Yeah.
Like that's like I think that happens like 2 minutes into the first episode. It's the freaking bats.
Yeah, I watched the first two. I liked it. I wasn't like, everyone was like, holy fuck, Batman the Cape Crusader, 100 on Rotten Tomatoes, the best show ever. And I was like, oh, it's good. Yeah, it's solid.
Yeah, 100 on Rotten Tomatoes makes sense, but like I think X-Men the animated series is better.
Yeah.
In terms of just overall, but it's not a huge step down. It's good. Worthy successor. What else did I watch? I watched Kneecap. A big recommend to everyone listening, because I'm going to assume our audience is mainly 95%, if not higher, males in their 20s to 30s. It's one of those movies that you would like throw on in high school when you're having like a sleepover with your boys and it's like 1 a.m. and you're scrolling Netflix and you just find something with like one actor you guys all know and you kind of throw that on because it looks like good vibes. That's what this movie is. It's just like good vibes, good music. The performers, it's a biopic. They play themselves, which is kind of nuts. And they're kind of really fucking good actors, which was shocking. But yeah, no, I enjoyed that quite a bit. And it's going to be Ireland's submission for Best International Feature, which is kind of crazy. Good movie. Very good. I would highly recommend it to our audience. They would very much enjoy it. And then I saw Dee Dee last night, which was also really good. If you're born like 91 to 97, it'll hit very close to home. They nail like that 2008, like they nail it. There are so many small details that they just get exactly right to a terrifying degree. It was awesome.
They ladybirded basically.
Yeah, I would say even more so. Like there's like full sequences like on AIM. There's like MySpace sequences. It's great. The way YouTube looks, the old way.
Oh yeah.
The way they like even like type on AIM, like nah, like NAAAH, like even though he's like a little Asian kid, like it's so funny. It's great. I don't know how it would hit for somebody not born in that age range because it's almost so inside baseball with its references. But yeah, no, if you're born in that age range, I would recommend that movie. It's pretty dead on.
Let me check that out. But remember, later for this week, I think Instigators should be in theaters, but with the exception of that, I think the next movie I'm actually kind of excited to review.
Apple TV.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's out on Apple TV Plus yet, but I think it is. The next one I'd be like, oh, I'm actually kind of excited and agree to watch this. The 9th, August 9th, a certain movie comes out that I am very pumped to talk about. And for evil, sinister.
You're excited for Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us, the domestic violence movie.
No. This is a much better picture by all accounts. Starring Academy Award winner Cate Blanchett.
Oh, fuck off.
Starring Kevin Hart, Jack Black. That's right, Borderlands coming into on the 9th. This movie, I don't know who fucking paid off who to get what, and like, because I don't know how this cast came together to make this. It looks so fucking bad, and I can't wait to watch it.
You know it's going to happen too, and we're both shitting on this, and we have been for months now. This is going to be Dungeons and Dragons all over again. It's going to be like serviceable enough, like it's going to be very serviceable and like kind of fun. Not like the best thing ever, but then it'll just be like, oh yeah, it was kind of good, and then we just look like fucking idiots for shitting on it for 5 months. It looks awful though. It looks truly terrible.
It looks so bad,
so cringy. It looks like a movie made by. I will say this: it looks like a movie made by gamers for gamers. Like the humor, the way everything looks. You get hot Cate Blanchett in there, sure. She looks great, by the way.
I'm trying to see
that other movie that's coming out the same day looks even worse though. That Colleen Hoover movie. Every time that trailer plays, I can't believe it. It's like she hit me, but I'm going back to him. I'm like, we're putting this movie in theaters?
It's fucking insane, dude. I'm trying to like see because I'm like, I know that they didn't release the scores or anything for Borderlands yet. I'm trying to see if there's anyone that's like tweeted about it or anything. Not really. Oh, I forgot Jamie Lee Curtis is in Borderlands after all this shit she was just dumping on Marvel.
Yeah, that's way more embarrassing.
Jesus Christ. Dr. Tannis. And I'll be very clear, just by the way, if anyone listening is like a massive Borderlands games fan, I never played Borderlands game. It just like something about that visual style is so abrasive to me. I was just like, I'm not into this. So I won't have any relation that way. But I don't know, man.
It feels very like Twisted Joker.
Yes, coded. It feels like this whole series of that.
Yeah, not for me.
Yeah, but make sure to check out. We'll do Instigators, I think, later this week. So make sure to check that out. Again, House of the Dragon, generally a bummer, a well executed bummer. I would say. Again, it's all top level stuff that I think we have more complaints with. But we'll talk maybe when the next season comes out, we'll do like some sort of weekly show for it or something like that. But until then, make sure check out the Instigators.